Hi, and welcome to Black on the Mat, the space where culture, community, and yoga intersect through our lived experiences. We're your host. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Saisha. Join us on this journey to bring representation and shed light on often overlooked stories on the yoga mat.
We're creating an accessible roadmap into yoga for Black people, building a community in this predominantly white space.
And letting folks already into yoga know that we're here.
Hey, girl, hey. Welcome back from Bali. How was your retreat, girl?
It was amazing. The whole thing was really incredible. The women, the space, it was beautiful. It was different. I could live like a queen in Bali if
Oh,
I
God,
chose
yeah.
to right now.
Bali
How
has
are
such a
you?
special place in my heart. As you know, it's where I started my yoga journey, but my relationship with Bali changed my relationship in life. Like it changed all my
Mm,
relationships. When I went to Bali, it was the catalyst to changing my relationships in my life, which is what we're talking about today is how yoga has transformed your relationships in your life. How or when did you realize yoga was shifting your relationships and impacting your relationships?
funny enough, I didn't realize it for a good long time until I started having more conversations as a teacher. Right? So I was able to connect with people very easily in the yoga space when I was taking my classes, things like that, just because we're all moving together and like trying to, I guess, be supportive and things like that. So that happened very naturally. But then I started having more conversations with people that have been in practice for years. And like I said, teaching, I realized that I was meeting a lot of women who were divorced because of finding themselves a little bit more. And just even myself, like I started like dropping off in certain relationships because I saw in a new way the level of toxicity that was being held out in them. And then, got a divorce myself. uh, because yeah, finding that sense of like self-love, self-respect, things like that change the way you feel about yourself and the expectations of your life. And so that all was, it was kind of a surprise. And I also realized though that like there's a lot of people that if you're not facing some changes, if you're not facing that like difference in how you feel in different spaces, either you've been living this beautiful pristine life, which congratulations to you, boo, or you're doing this fake yoga where you're just doing the asanas and you're not really caring about
But
what's
so many
happening.
people are doing the fake asanas.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're going to call them fake asanas. So many people are. They're not connecting.
Right. Right. No, and that's absolutely true. And that is fostered in a lot of the spaces. We talked about this a few episodes ago that like when you're in the wrong yoga studio, you're not going to get the work. You're not going to get that emotional support. You're not going to do the work, right? Like
Mhm.
I've had people come to my class and they're like, "Oh, did you notice that I was sobbing or did I hide it well in my pigeon pose?" And I'm like, "Listen, have the moment. You don't need to hide it from me, but I get why you wanted to have that moment to yourself. But the fact that you're feeling something makes way more of a difference than whether you were with me for the next couple poses. You didn't need a mermaid. You needed tears.
Yeah.
That's cool."
And yoga does that. I just feel like it's one of those things that, like you were saying, it hit me when I didn't realize it. I mean, from the first time I did the type of like Kundalini yoga, it hit me, and I didn't realize it was affecting my relationships. I'm like, why am I ugly crying in public in front of these other people? But why are they ugly crying too? I'm confused. I'm hella confused. I'm gonna do this again. And it happened again. But I didn't realize it was really impacting my relationships until I started realizing people are like, you're you're different. Like you just seem more grounded. You seem like
Mm.
these things aren't bothering you as much as they used to. And I'm like, wait, I am feeling a little bit more secure. And it was what I started having these matrix moments. Really don't like the movie, but I kind of know parts of the movie. It's like when he does that whole thing and he's like this. And that's how I feel when like people come at me sideways.
Mm. And you just
Uh,
dodge the bullet just like this. You let it
yeah,
slow
it just
motion. You see the air.
you do. ooh, I'm not joking. It feels that way. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And when I was, and I don't know exactly when I realized it, but when I did, I was like, yo, I can't believe this. This thing works. And this, and like, and it, I don't, at first I didn't know how it worked, but then I was like, oh, okay, it's through some of these different things. But I'm curious, I know what I think, but why do you think yoga works in helping your relationships?
Ooh, girl, I had this whole conversation with my girls at the
Yeah.
retreat. My theory on this is the concept of being self-centered, right? We hear the word self-centered and we think, oh, this person is pompous. They only worry about themselves. No, that's not necessarily the case. If you act self-centered and you don't take anybody else into consideration, sure, absolutely. You could just you'll be a jerk. But if you are centered in yourself, all of your decisions lead to your best alignment, lead to the person that you actually want to be the most. And I think when we live this other life, when we live a life that's based on like corporate decisions, based on money, based on other people, people pleasing, the different things, the traumas, the toxicity that we learn, etc., we get further and further away from who we actually want to be, from ourselves. And so to take that space and to say, okay, well, if I am centered, if I am aligned, if I can find more of what I want in my body, in my life, in my breath, in all of that, I won't be reaching and grasping for straws in other spaces. I won't try so hard to make sure that other people understand this or see me like this. I don't care. I don't have to care. I can just be this person. I can just manifest and maintain my own space. And so then you don't want to hang on to the toxicity. You don't want to hang on to those people that are, oh, like, I just want to go out to the club and do this and send the other. Now, if you love that, if that vibrates within your soul and you just want to go shake it, and absolutely, right? But if you feel like, no, all we do is drink there, I always spend too much money, I get stressed out by this, I'm anxious from that. No, I'd rather be home. I'd rather be doing this. Y'all want to come over and have some wine? And like, these are just examples. Obviously, however this fits for you, it fits. But the more you feel like it could fit you, the less you're willing to accept what doesn't.
Yeah. I love how you said something about like just be. It allowed you just to be. And it resonated with me because I'm like, that's what yoga made me feel like I could just be me. I can be me unapologetically, but not only me be me unapologetically, I was able to discover who me was. I feel like through the practice, I was able to get that mental clarity. I was able to get that awareness. And you were talking about breath work. I feel like breath work is one of the best ways to kind of get that kind of clarity and help with your communication. Like for me, I utilize it as a way to when I feel flustered, I feel stressed, I feel angry at someone, I will do some breath work. Whether it's sitily breathing, which is the taco tongue, whether it's inhaling, exhaling, whether it's doing breath of fire, I feel like you can utilize your breath in such a way. But I also love using mantras. I don't know if you've ever used mantras for that type of feeling, but like there is scientific proof behind using that sound current. But like one mantra I use all the time is Sat Nam, which is truth is my identity. So when you're saying that over and over and over in that repetition, you're telling your inner child, you're telling your subconscious, hey, truth is my identity. Let's connect to who I am. And then I also love the fact that if you look at something like Yoga Nidra, it really helps you get into a mind state where you're working on your beliefs and your thoughts. And I think it helps with your relationships.
What would you say is a specific shift? Is there a relationship that really set it off for you? You were like, "Oh, I see this. I had this conversation I never would have before, or I just cut this person off."
Yeah, I can name so many, it's ridiculous. And I think when I got to the point where I can name so many, I was like, I think this yoga thing is working. I don't know what it's doing. And that's also part of the reason why I wanted to become a yoga therapist, so I can deconstruct some of these practices that we do and look at the scientific reason why it works and how it works for me to help other people in another way. And that's why I love it. So, what were the relationships? There's two in particular. There was this boy. We won't say his name, but he's trash. Um, gone. I was in the middle of my yoga teacher training, And I was going through, he was gaslighting me like there was no tomorrow, major gaslighter. And I was going through yoga teacher training and we were doing a yoga set. And all I know is it gave me like, it was like the lights opened up and the beaming information came in. It was like, this guy is not for you. And here are all the reasons why. I was realizing what were some of my issues in showing up in relationships, like
Hmm.
intimate relationships. And I was realizing some of the limiting beliefs that I had. And it all came literally in a yoga practice. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't see that coming. The other one would be my dad. My dad, I love him. My dad had a stroke. And after the stroke, he just changed as a person. He's a little bit meaner, a lot meaner. And it's difficult to talk to him sometimes because he gets really set in his ways. Girl, I will use some satanama. I will mantra him and I'll just start chanting him. And it calms him down and it calms me
Mm.
down.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, what about you?
Uh, so I would say it happened in layers, right? So like I said, I ended up getting a divorce not just because I started yoga. So I don't want it to make it seem like, oh yeah, like so yeah, you start yoga, you get a divorce, you break up, you end your job. Yeah, like I'm not saying any of that, right? If it's toxic though, and you really pour into it, it's gonna happen,
Mhm,
right? And so one of the things, and like this is, I am literally years past my divorce, and I am still healing from some things, and things happen, and whatever. And like there were a lot of things there that like he was very supportive when I was going through my yoga teacher training, to be quite honest.
mhm,
And when I finished school, when I did my yoga teacher training, he was so supportive. And then like after that, it was as if me asking him to do things seemed like outrageous. Right. And so I was seeing more and more, not just with him, but with other friendships and things like that. That's like, this is very one-sided now. Like it was easy for you to be supportive when things were simple, when I was still doing the heavy lifting. And this is true in relationships I'm still evaluating today. To be fair, this is a journey, right? But I realized that, okay, I need these things. I need support too. I need this. I need this to happen. I need it to feel easy. I need it to feel like at least I am, again, being supported fully versus the support that people pleaser me needed, which was so little, right?
mhm,
And I realized like me asking for things out loud made people uncomfortable. And that's still true. I still, to this day, one of my friends just last week was asking me like, oh, well, what do I do about this? Because this relationship with this person, like, it doesn't feel like this. Have you said anything about it? Do you mean like to them? I do. I 100% mean to them. And that is a lot for people. And I realized like I can say it like this. I can say it with a smile on my face. I can say it nice and bright and sunny to you. I'm not asking you to be super mean, but I am going to be direct. And me being direct and me saying these things out loud and questioning them out loud has really caused a lot of rifts in relationships. But it's one of those things also where you have to realize like just because it caused the rift doesn't mean the rift wasn't going to happen. You were not aligned with this person. You were not meant to be in this space with this person for but so much longer anyway. It's just now it's happening. And then to me, that's always like, oh, thank God it's happening faster. Right. Because I want to have relationships where I feel supported. I want to have relationships where I can have these conversations. I can't do that with you anymore. You've proven that. So thank you. Goodbye.
bye. It's interesting. I did a podcast last week on likability. And how do you find the balance between being likable and being your authentic self? And it really was based off of, I don't know if you saw the op-ed in Essence Magazine about Amanda Seales and her talking about, you know, she's not getting her just due. And then the author of this article in Essence was basically saying it's better to be liked than to be skillful. And I was
Mhm.
like, as Black women, especially, we deal with the relationships of having microaggressions against us and having to fit in and having to be agreeable, but we also want to be our authentic self. I feel like yoga helps us find that balance because there's a cost behind being agreeable and likable, and there's a cost behind being authentic. How do you feel that yoga is helping you with that? Like, are there specific things you do that you, or is it just kind of just the daily practice?
No, I would absolutely say this is again, that's why I feel like that self-alignment, I feel
Yeah.
like that's just so real, right? And I do feel like that's something you can feel at the end of just a yoga practice. But when you take the yoga off the mat and really into your real life, every decision that you make, even the ones that feel uncomfortable, like I said, I'll call people out. I'll say things that's going to feel uncomfortable. That's
Yeah.
going to be something that doesn't like feel nice and warm and fuzzy. But like at the end of it, it feels like such a relief. I got that off my chest. I got to say what I wanted to say. I got to express how I feel. I got to ask questions. Um, and like even if I learned a hard truth, even if I learned that me telling my friend I need more from this relationship and them telling me I don't have space for that, great. So now I can try to stop looking for that space from you. Finding that alignment within yourself, right? Taking that space to say, I know that this doesn't feel good for me. I can't maintain this relationship. Being able to say those things to yourself versus the space that we know of as women to always take care of it, always handle it, always do this, that, and the other. Oh, yeah, I got it. I'll put that on the calendar. I'll slide it in. I will not. I will not slide it into my calendar.
We're not getting slid into the calendar.
I won't, right? Like even this, we texted, we adjusted. Great, this is fine. This feels good. If it wasn't going to work, if it wasn't going to fit, it wasn't going to feel good, I would have no problem telling you, "Oh, yeah, no, we need to stick with that other time because I can't do that this morning." That doesn't feel like guilt to me. And I feel like for women, especially, that is a space that we live in where it's like, I have to tell someone no, that I can't do the thing that they just asked me to do immediately out of nowhere when I don't have the time, effort, energy, or strength or mental capacity. I can't fit it, but I need to. What kind of bull is that? That I'm like that I feel like has been the biggest, heaviest lift off of me, right? So when I started to feel that in my spaces to say, no, I don't feel the need to say that. Like people look at me and they're like, how do you just say no? And one thing that I noticed is that as I do this more, I can be that example more for other people, which is literally what I do as my job. But I feel like we're trying to be liked, trying to fit into the space, right? Trying to be amenable, trying to appease God knows who and society, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting because you said it, right? Like trying to fit in. I said it in my last live as a Black plus size woman growing up in the 90s, and obviously it goes back behind that too, but I'm only talking about myself. Nothing, absolutely nothing was made for me. And then that caused me to, with my cousin, we ended up altering clothes and altering things because, yes, I need to alter the space to fit me. If that's always been true anyway, it's going to be true now too, right? And to accept that as a space is not something that we feel empowered to do if we're trying to fit in, if we're trying to assimilate, if we're just trying to be liked. Yeah, you like me like this, but I don't. And that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that transition has, I guess, represents itself now when you start to meet people, when you start to interact with folks? Where do you see this, like the power of the yoga working in you and your discernment for new relationships?
I think it goes back to kind of what I was saying before. I feel like I see that I've changed. I see that I'm more grounded. I see that I will pause and that I respond versus react. And that's the key difference. And it goes back to I'm one of those people who wants to like take things apart and figure out why. And so for me, I was like, well, why does this work? And I'm like, okay, through a meditation, I'm stilling the mind. I'm being able to get focused. I'm able to get to that clarity. I'm able to be more mindful and aware through Kundalini yoga, where a lot of stuff we do is about repetition and doing things for a long period of time, but it's really to get you to that point of resilience because you're doing something for so long. You're like, dang, my arms are hurting. The monkey brain is going like, why am I here? When is this going to stop? But when you're able to get past that, that transformative part of the practice is where the aha moments come. It's where the energy, the grace, the ability to get through challenges occur. And it helps me manage relationships that feel challenging. I think also through getting like the clarity and awareness and the awakening that happens through being in the deep state of relaxation, whether it's yoga nidra, whether it's a meditation, whether it's doing breath work, all these different things have added up to help me shift how I show up in a powerful way.
What you just said resonates with me a lot. Like I completely feel that level of like connection and stillness, that pause to make me say, I don't need to react to this the way you want me to.
Mhm.
And I've said it before that I feel like I don't know if that's my personal level of pettiness that like you don't have the right to piss me off. I'm not giving you that kind of power in my life. Absolutely not.
But were you that way
And
before yoga, or was that after yoga?
so I had a little bit of it. I had some of it before yoga, but it took me going through a lot of those fights. And that was when I was young. Like I was so in so many arguments and bullied and all that and the other as a kid. And then when I hit high school, I it was and really when I got accepted into the high school that I got accepted into, I said, "Oh, I'm better than this. I'm better than this area that I'm in and the small mindsets. I'm better than the people that have been mean to me." That doesn't mean I'm better than everybody here. It doesn't mean that I'm, F all y'all. I'm better than the minimum that you are living in a place where you need to stay here and you need to survive in this small pond. I'm worth a big pond. I am a bigger fish. I'm cool with that. And I felt like I could hold my own there. I felt smart enough. I felt prepared enough, talented enough, etc. enough to that I felt like, yeah, I'm going to hold my own here. I just had to be presented with the opportunity to have more. And then I feel like yoga was another layer of that, but that same kind of feeling that I I am seeing the spaces that I'm in. I realize that there's more for me, that I need to be in different rooms, that I need to be in different spaces in order to grow differently, be fostered differently, etc. And I can do that. That space exists out here. I'm allowed to find it. Because circumstance is the thing that like messes people up the most. People feel like, oh, this is, and like learning the difference between circumstance and situation to me is a huge thing, right? So it's like, so this is a circumstance that we're living in, this is the setting, whatever, but what's the situation? Can I change the situation? Do I have that autonomy? And if I don't believe I deserve a different situation, no, I can't change anything. But if I do, if I see that, oh, you know what, I just need to calm my mind. So that's the physical practice, right? If I can calm my mind, if I can get the thoughts to stop running like ticker tape and instead be more cohesive and like kind of bulk together, and then I can toss out the ones that are foolish and I can take on the ones that really need development, right? So taking those spaces and taking that time to acknowledge and just kind of say, okay, look, what space do I really need to be in? Is this a situation that I need to even be thinking about? Right? Like, and this allows me to let so many other things go that, like, and that's why I said, like, I think it applies the same way, but it was just a moment that I had at that time versus a moment that I had in my 20s, right? Oh, this is the situation. I can ask for more. I can find more. More is available. Better is available. Less toxic is available to me. I didn't think that before. Now I do, right? And so to work from that mindset allows me to say, yeah, I can meet new people with discernment. I can go into new spaces, new jobs. I can be different in this job that I have. Like it allows me to feel much more control. And I feel like that space for people would allow for so much ease, so much relaxation, like so much more of that centered
Yeah.
self,
See, I
right?
wasn't you. I wasn't you. Didn't have any of this lying in the background. I was the girl, you won't get this. I was passive aggressive. I was in victim mode. I was
Mhm.
all very defensive. I did not have, let me phrase that, maybe had it and I didn't use it, but I wasn't utilizing any of this before yoga. That's how I can know that yoga was different because I didn't control how I showed up. Everyone triggered me. Anything that related back to past limiting beliefs triggered me until yoga,
Mm.
period.
And I would agree with that, that I had slipped back into that space more, right? Like dealing with insecure men, multiple relationships, and then including in like leading into my marriage, thinking that that was better when it was like, no, this is now just kind of still sinking into this space.
Mhm.
I'm not. naturally an insecure person. I had to be beaten into that place in the first place, and then I had to be beaten into it again. But then once I was living in that space, and it was like, okay, well, again, now I'm being enlightened. My eyes are opened. I can shift out of this space. And I feel like that acknowledgement and embodying it, which makes the biggest difference as far as like adding in the yoga practice, embodying it, feeling it. That's why I do what I do. This is why my coaching program includes we're doing yoga, we're having conversations, and we're doing yoga, we're doing journal prompts, and we're doing yoga. We are doing the yoga. You are getting it in your body, because it feels different when you can attach a physical movement to it. This is why some people find their journey in the gym and not in yoga. I do feel like there's still a space and probably the right kind of yoga for you, but if you have found something that makes sense and it works for you, at least you found it,
Yeah.
right? Like it doesn't have to look how it looks for me or for you.
So I like the fact that you use journaling and yoga. I feel like with the types of yoga, the yoga nidra and the Kundalini yoga that I use, the energy work that happens within that, I feel like that feels like in the meditations that happen with that, I feel like that feels like the journaling sessions, that feels like the conversations. One of the things I wanted to ask you before we wrap up fully was, okay, we both agree yoga will change your life in some way or another. It may not be as dramatic, or it may be, hella dramatic and life changing, you get divorced and whatever. But that being said, relationships are going to shift one way or another. What advice do you have to give people to maintain their sanity, their self-awareness, and to get through maybe letting go of some relationships?
Mhm. Well, and so that was one thing that I did want to add before, because as you guys know, like, and you know specifically, like my relationship now came from yoga, right? Clyde and I met on Instagram, and we had our, our long distance dating time and our a lot of conversation, and before we were actually together, before, posting things like that, like before we were fully in a relationship, we talked about a lot of things, and a lot of it was like that things that we had discovered about ourselves from doing yoga, from having consistent practice, from wanting to live this entrepreneur life and dive into it. And I will say this about all relationships, in my personal opinion: once you know yourself better, the quality of your relationships will adapt to whoever that is,
Mhm.
right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. If you know yourself better and you're a jerk, yeah, you're going to get more of those relationships that support being a jerk, but you're going to get more of it regardless, right? So if you know that you are pouring into yourself and you're not accepting things that are sad or that are victimizing or are insert the toxic thing here, then you're going to get more of that. You're going to get closer to yourself and people that are more aligned with the space that you want to inhabit and the things that you want to do and the time you want to spend and the way you want to be. Um, so accepting that you can let people go is one of the biggest things, right? And it doesn't mean that also doesn't mean like the person that is also toxic and is like, well, they looked at me wrong, so now I am never gonna talk to them again. All right, sis, chill. We're not, that's not where we're at. But like they could have just had something in their eye. You don't even know what's happening. But if you have a conversation with somebody, and especially like if you know them for whatever reason, you know them through work, you know them through acquaintances or whatever, and you see the way they treat people and the way they treat you and you don't like it, it doesn't feel good to your spirit, you should not spend more time with them. Right. And to understand that you are not everybody's punching bag, you are not everybody's pin cushion, like that oldest daughter disease where we want to like be so helpful because we know things will go faster or better if we're helpful, if we're this, if we're that. Yeah, it would be. I'm awesome. It would be fantastic if I helped you. You know how you can make that happen? Thickthightyoga.com. You click and you sign up and you book. Because if you just want to be my friend, if you want to go to brunch with me, you want to have interactions, you want to be part of the conversation, we just want to be cordial or like I said, have a relationship, a friendship, then I should also feel reciprocated in this. I shouldn't feel like I'm at work when I'm talking to you. If it feels like I'm working hard to talk to you, to be around you, to do this with you, I don't deserve that. And so that makes it easier to step back and separate yourself, because then you realize how much more valuable your time is. My time is not worth this. My effort and energy is not worth this, what you're giving back to me. What would you say people you have learned or people need to learn?
For me, the best advice I can give to someone who is on the yoga journey and recognizing that their relationships are shifting is be consistent with the practice. The more consistent you are with the practice, the more you will get those aha moments, the more you get that clarity, the more you'll get that grounding, the more you'll get the point of being able to speak your truth and clearing that energy. And so for me, I think it's consistency, because find out when I don't do it, I revert backwards. So being consistent with the practice, repetition is everything. It creates habit changing, which changes your life. Period.
Period. No, I think you said it.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Black on the Mat, and we'll see you next week. Ciao. Thank you for joining us today on Black on the Mat.
Let's continue connecting, sharing our stories, and sowing the benefits of having a yoga practice in your life.
Subscribe to Black on the Mat on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
I'm Saisha, and you can find me at Thick Thigh Yoga on all social media platforms and thickthighyoga.com.
I'm Danielle, and you can find me at HelloWell with Danielle on IG, YouTube, and HelloWellWithDanielle.com.